Hello, everybody. Welcome back to BayWatch, a Tampa Bay Sports Podcast YouTube channel. We are going to talk about NFL free agency, which has just happened over the past week or so, from the tampering period to the actual signing period. The Buccaneers have done a lot as far as the other teams in the NFL. Some teams have done good, some teams have not done very well. I am Michael Wax, joined as always with my co-host, Jack Touchton. Jack, a lot to talk about in the NFL, both good and bad. How are you doing?
There are some teams that are terrible and we're not on the list. It's a new feeling and I'm super happy about it.
I cannot believe how well Jason Light and Bruce Arians did in free agency, considering how
Things are
poorly.
going great.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any
Thing,
sense.
things are good. I'm not angry about anything.
But
It's
I'm not
still
here to
unusual.
I'm not here to question anything. I'm
Oh,
just
not at
here
all.
to live through it. The first move, Bruce Arians said, "You're not going anywhere," to two players. He said it to Godwin and he said it to David during the parade. Chris Godwin signed his franchise tag. It was tendered to him, and then he signed it a couple of days later. With the wide receiver market, he'll be making $15.983 million this upcoming season. As we mentioned with Zach Dietz in the episode, I'll link up in the top right corner. Godwin was for sure getting tagged. Is this a precursor to a long-term deal, or do you think they're going to see what they have in Godwin this year before they possibly give him a long-term deal?
I would certainly expect that Godwin's going to get a long-term deal. I think he's shown every possible shred of evidence he would need to prove that he deserves to be paid like he's one of the top receivers in the league. The Bucks should have that money. We saw this week the NFL signed a nearly $10 billion TV deal that should send the salary cap skyrocketing. And even though that jump is probably going to come in 2023, not in 2022, I still think that the Bucks have every reason to sign Godwin. It should be pretty easy to structure an extension that keeps his cap hit low enough both this year and next year that they can pay him exactly what he deserves and still be able to free up a little cap space and stay under the cap. So I would certainly expect the extensions coming, and I think we probably see him break the record for wide receivers.
Wow. Okay. I was not expecting that, but you know,
I I think he does. I really do. I think that the record will be broken very quickly after him, just because that's normally how NFL contracts work.
yeah.
Like God, Godwin will sign his deal, and it may break the record, and then Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs come up, and all of a sudden it's not even close anymore. That's kind of the nature of it. Everything eventually becomes a bargain because the cap keeps going up, and other players keep having their contracts expire, unless of course you hit a global pandemic. But that's kind of a different thing.
Yeah. So if the TV contract hits in 2023, like you think it does, is it reasonable to assume that Godwin would want to maybe sign a full, let's say a 4-year deal, and he'll get, X number of dollars. But after that 2 years, he basically says, okay, I want to restructure my contract and I want to get as much as I can with this new TV deal.
It's absolutely a possibility. We've seen guys do that middle of their contracts before. I think it's a lot of the reason we're seeing a ton of 1 and 2 year deals this offseason, just kind of as a whole. Guys know there's going to be more money there. Some of it may trickle into 22. A lot of it's probably coming in 2023. But yeah, I think that's probably going to be the nature of a lot of deals. So maybe Godwin decides that he just does want to play on the tag and he signs a long term deal next offseason when he kind of has a better idea of what the salary cap may look like in the coming years.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
I don't think he's leaving Tampa anytime soon, whether that extension comes now or in 12 months. Because I would expect that even if he gets to free agency next year, the Bucks are tagging him again.
yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, we hope he doesn't get tagged again. We've seen people get tagged twice in a row, and it's really not a favorable look on the organization when they do that. You want to lock those guys up to long-term deals, but I think that switching from Shaq on the tag to Godwin on the tag, if we put Shaq underneath the tag again, that would have looked really bad. And maybe we don't re-sign Godwin, but with Godwin being on the tag, with the wide receiver cap hit not being the highest of all of the cap hits when it comes to the franchise tag, you're able to keep everyone, and I think that keeps everyone happy. Going
Absolutely.
from Godwin to a guy who both you and I said, and was the other guy that Bruce Arians said you're not going anywhere, but you and I both said if this guy leaves, it would be devastating. Not necessarily because of his on-field production, which is wonderful, but also because of what he represents to this organization. Levante David is staying, and he gets 2 years at 12.5 million per, so that's $25 million over the life of the deal, with $20 million guaranteed. A more than fair contract for a
I
guy
can't.
who
I can't believe he signed this deal. I can't believe it. I love
is
Levante David
unbelievable.
so much.
Yeah,
It's you say more than fair. It's not. It's not even close, and that's why it's so great.
yeah.
Bobby Wagner, who Levante David statistically has been comparable to, even if you want to say Wagner's better, Bobby Wagner got 3 years for $54 million from Seattle. He signed for $18 million a year. Levante David took 12 and a half. I can't believe it. I literally can't. And it's great.
I think a lot of that has to do with sort of the guy that Levante is and the organization that he grew up with. But, you know, I'm totally going to take it. He wants to win again. He,
Yep.
for the first time in his Bucks career, felt what it was to win this past season. Like, he was a part of a couple of 10, 6, 9, and 7 teams. But this year, finally going to the playoffs, I don't even know if he would have stayed if they would have gotten beaten the conference championship or the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tom Brady really brings that mentality to the team that, we talk about Levante David being a leader. He's absolutely a leader. He's absolutely an alpha. But in terms of getting the team prepared to win, Tom Brady is bar none one of the best to ever do it, and probably the best to ever do it. So I think that really took a lot off Levante's shoulders. Um, I'm just ecstatic that he's back, because if he would have left, I think that would have given the Buccaneers such a hole at the linebacker position, not only on the field, but it would have just destroyed the fan base's morale, even after winning the Super Bowl, that he just would have left.
I never thought he was leaving. I still can't believe he stayed for this. That's honestly the best way to put it, probably.
That's fair. And out of the three, it was most likely that, we said, okay, Levante's probably going to stay. It's really up to the other two. Who do you want to keep? And one of them is probably going to leave. And all three of them ended up staying, which was a surprise, a welcome one, but a surprise at that, with Shaq Barrett getting essentially the Bobby Wagner deal, like same cap hit, extra season, if I'm not mistaken. Same amount of
One
guarantee,
more. Yep.
four times 18 with $36 million guaranteed. A really solid contract for what is no doubt one of the best rushers in the entire game.
This is another home run. I thought he was going to get a little more than this, but not significantly more. The guaranteed number surprises me. I thought there'd be a lot more dead money in that third year. I didn't think there'd be an out after the second year of that contract, and there is. I would certainly hope that we're not going to see much regression out of Shaq, but if we do, the Bucs should be able to get out of that deal if they need to. As for all three of them staying, I actually had higher hopes than you did. I thought there was a real chance of that, and I'll kind of get into how some of that cap stuff worked when we talk about Brady's restructure in a minute. But financially, it works, because with the expected cap jump, you can afford to pay these guys if you don't have too many huge extensions coming up, with which the Bucs mostly don't. They've already taken care of a lot of those moves, other than Chris Godwin, and Carlton Davis is the other guy who's going to be up next year. That's a big free agent. But yeah, Shaq has been one of the best edges in the league for a couple of years now. it's great to see him back. Keeping the big three is obviously the dream scenario, and I'm happy we got it done.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that you did say in terms of some of the other guys coming back, which we'll get to, was I don't know where the Bucks are going to go during the draft now at 32. And when we were originally talking about the possibility of Shaq leaving, I was like, okay, that's a void that you could fill at 32. Like that makes sense if you were to go after a linebacker slash defensive end that is a really good pass rusher. But now, what do you do? I think that's a question that we could have next month when we inevitably talk about the draft again. Big credit to Zach Dietz for coming on the show, but things change. So, our draft outlook may change before then. You did mention the Brady void years. Let's get into that contract. Tom Brady signs basically a 4-year contract extension, but 3 of those years are void years. And I'm not going to lie, did not understand it when it came out. Still do not completely understand it. All I know is that it does lower the cap hit. So, Jack, please take it away.
Okay, so I've taught myself a lot about this over the last month. So basically what void years are, they relate to the signing bonus of the deal. The signing bonus is paid out in cash immediately as the player signs the deal. Like that's money you get on day one. However, it does not all hit your cap in that first year. I believe Dak Prescott's an example of this. I believe Dak Prescott's going to make over $75 million in cash this year, but his cap hit is only around 22. And the way that that works is the signing bonus prorates equally over the first 5 years of a contract. So if you have a $20 million signing bonus, you're getting that $20 million in cash on day one, but it's hitting $4 million against your cap in each of those 5 years. Void years are essentially the player's not actually under contract, but because you put them in the deal, it allows you to stretch that signing bonus further. Levante David has this in his deal as well. And it'll push that signing bonus onto future years. So you have a smaller cap hit and that cap hit stays on the roster even after the player's gone. But it lowers the cap for the years they are there. And obviously with the projected cap spike, that's something we're seeing a ton of from teams this year because it gives them the opportunity to push money down the road to a year where they believe it's not going to be as much of a problem for them.
Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense.
The Taysom Hill one, I cannot explain to you. That one I don't really understand. I think it essentially works the same way, but I don't know why the valuation on it exists.
Well, for the Taysom Hill one, he signed that 4-year, what was it, $160 million deal.
It's 140. I don't know what any of that 140 million is. I think it essentially works like what I just explained with Brady, but I don't know exactly how, I don't know where the 140 came from other than to mess with NFL fans. That's the part I'm a little more confused on, but I think it's essentially a cap saving maneuver in the same way that Brady's deal was.
I mean, they could just pay, what is it, $30 million for backup quarterback. That would be
backup tight end, but I digress.
Third string quarterback, backup tight end. That would be amazing.
That would be great.
Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So going after the void years, which, is something that I'm probably going to write down and try to memorize, and it still won't make sense to me. Let's talk about Tom Brady's guy. Gronk is back, signed a 1-year deal worth $10 million, but the cap hit will be lowered. Is this another situation of void years, or is this?
It is.
Okay.
So it's two different things. The maximum value of the deal is 10 million. He gets 8 million in year one cash, and he has a 5 million year one cap hit. I know that all sounds ridiculous, but here's basically how this works. So the signing bonus is $4 million. And there are 4 void years on the end of the deal that basically makes that hit the 800,000 against the cap in each of those 5 years. So Gronk, even after he's gone, will have 4 years at 800,000 each on the Bucks cap. The incentives are what take it from 8 to 10 million in potential value, but they don't hit the cap because incentives, when you're structuring a deal, are either classified as likely to be earned or not likely to be earned. And it's a pretty arbitrary distinction, except the not likely to be earned incentives don't hit your cap unless they are met, and then they will hit your cap the next year. So, for example, if you give Rob Gronkowski a $2 million incentive for being a first team All Pro, you're going to classify that as not likely to be earned. He is not likely to be a first team All Pro. So that actually doesn't hit your cap unless he meets that incentive, and then it'll hit $2 million in the following year. So that's how he got a contract with a sticker price of 10 million that actually hits the Bucks cap for a little less than 5.
So that makes sense. What I equate it to, just because I understand NHL finances a little bit more, is rookie bonuses. You'll have type A and type B, and those ones will, if they get exercised, will get pushed onto the next year's cap. The thing that I'm, I guess, confused about more than anything is that usually those players are still on the roster when their or their rookie bonuses hit, and they're still uh you know their cap hit is higher. But it sounds like with potentially Gronk and Brady, they might not be on the roster when their void years kick in. Is that a mistaken
So
sentence?
no, that's correct. It's because they don't actually have a base salary for those years. Like, the contract technically ends after, for Brady, it's 2 more years. For Gronk, it's 1. But that signing bonus is still stretched over 5 because of the accounting of it. So once they don't have a base salary anymore, that's when they no longer are on the roster. But the bonus can still be stretched past that.
So going from the entirety of the void years uh, fiasco, I'll call it, the biggest signing, in my opinion, you could talk about the big three. Those guys are huge when it comes to bringing this team back. But one of the most important signings, in my opinion, is Ryan Suckup. 3 years,
About
$12
this,
million. We have a kicker who can make field goals and extra points. I have never been happier to have a kicker get signed or have anything to do with the Buccaneers. Huge, huge win for Jason Light for finally finding a kicker.
You said it perfectly. We have a kicker who can make field goals and extra points. I have nothing to add beyond that. That is the only thing that needs to be said about this. It's great. A+. Love it.
Yeah, there's not really much to say. I mean, you'd like your kickers to make field goals. Ryan Suckup does his job very well. I think there was one game in the entire season, and it was against Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, where he did not look like
It was
himself.
one of the last weeks of the year where he just had a really off day, and other than that, he was pretty automatic.
Yeah, and we came on this show like the first time, and we were like, maybe Ryan Suckup isn't the guy. And then he was fantastic during the playoffs, during Week 17 against the Falcons. Nothing at all to say about Ryan Suckup other than we hope that he's in a Buccaneers uniform for a long time. We hope he's successful in a Buccaneers uniform for a long time. As far as guys who are not signed to the Buccaneers right now, there are 3 big names to talk about in terms of name recognition. There's Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, and Ndamukong Suh. As far as the importance goes, and I'll go first before I get into you, because you sort of have gone through an offseason preview of what you'd like to see the Bucks do next year. I think any of these guys could leave. I think all of them, if they want money, probably will leave. And the Buccaneers have been so solid in terms of keeping everybody else that you can easily replace these guys. You saw with AB If he leaves, they've got Tyler Johnson, they've got Scotty Miller, they've got production in the aggregate. With Leonard Fournette, I know you don't like Keyshawn Vaughn. He is a name that's possible. Also, James White in free agency is another guy that the Buccaneers could
That's
target.
better. I like that.
If Leonard Fournette leaves, and who knows, maybe they spend a day 2 pick on it as well. There's options. Same thing with Sue. Like, I'd like to have Ndamukong Suh back if there was any of the three that could potentially come back, but that could potentially also be a draft need because he's not getting any younger. And if they do bring him back, it's probably going to be on a 1-year deal. So again, that's just my opinion. You have done an entire preview on the offseason, what you think the Bucks should do. So I'm going to leave this one up to you.
I think you pretty much said it best. It'd be cool to have any of these guys back. If we don't, I think that's fine. Antonio Brown, obviously an incredibly talented player, was not a head case for the most part in Tampa, which was a nice surprise. If he continues to not be a head case, I'd love him back. But like you said, I'm completely comfortable with Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson, as one of them will be wide receiver 3. I'm not worried about that. Fournette, I was really good in the playoffs, and again, it'd be cool to have him, but I think there are other moves to be made here. I think there's a real chance the Bucks are going to look at Najee Harris at 32 if he gets that far. I don't know if that's the answer, but I know he's going to be on the list.
Amazing. That would be amazing. Either him or ETN if ETN falls to 32.
ETN is RB3.
I'm just saying, he could potentially fall to 32.
Are you familiar with Javonte Williams from North Carolina?
Oh, he's very good. He's very good.
He's better than Travis Etienne is what he is.
Yeah, that's true.
Javonte Williams is like, what if a freight train woke up and drank Hulk juice, and then that's just how he runs all the time? It's incredible. I love him so much.
He's like Derrick Henry with a mean streak all like 24/7. Like Derrick Henry.
I'm not comparing anyone to Derrick Henry, but he is that kind of physical runner. Yes.
Yeah. But Derrick Henry, like he's when he has to, but sometimes he gets those yards, like 1-2 yard gain. Williams just crushes people. Like it's not even fair.
Anyway, yeah. I think any of those 3 running backs are probably on the board for the Bucks at 32. I don't know if they're gonna do it. I'll be fine if they do. It's not my favorite, but I would understand. So yeah, I think Fournette probably is the most likely to leave. Apparently the Seahawks are interested in him. If he'd like to go average 2.6 yards a carry, that's his prerogative, and I wish him the best of luck. As for Sue, I think Sue is probably the most I don't know if I think Sue is the most likely to be back. I think we will add either someone like Sue or we will just retain Sue. Chino Atkins was released by Cincinnati today. I expect he's a guy we'll have interest in. Kwan Short from Carolina was also released. Another guy I think we'll like. Basically someone who we trust to play 34 end as a kind of an older player, someone we're bringing in on a 1-year deal, a lot of experience, wants to win. Sue, obviously, we know can do it. So if we want to bring him back to be that guy, great. If there's somewhere we think we can get a cheaper option with some similar production, also good. So I think, yeah, any of the 3 could walk. I'd welcome any of them back. We'll see.
Well, if I remember correctly, before the 2019 season, so during 2018 free agency, Sue was brought in as basically a reclamation project after what happened with Miami and how basically he had not performed as advertised. He was brought into the Bucks as someone that was on a 1-year deal and could potentially, revitalize his career. And then Tom Brady came in and he said, "Okay, I'm going to re-sign for the 2020 season." You brought up some great names like Chino Atkins that can do the same thing as Sue did during the 2019 season, which is sign a 1-year prove-it deal, or just come in and say, "Hey, we want a chance to win. You're a good player. Let's go and win." Like it's definitely possible.
Something I have heard a lot of NFL writers talk about that I'm extremely curious to see if it actually develops. Because obviously, we are very soon going to reach a point with the lowered cap where just about everyone is out of money. And we're going to see a lot of guys who are normally getting multi-year, several $1 million deals, taking 1-year deals for cheap to just because they know there's going to be more money out there in future years. And the Bucks make a lot of sense for a lot of those guys because you're coming in as contenders. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. This is so weird, but guys want to come to Tampa to win. Oh, I'm just so happy I can say that.
How? Like, I don't even know how. Like, you could say that about the Lightning. I guess you could say that about the Rays. You could never say that about the Bucks.
I know.
Rays, you could say like, oh, Charlie Morton came here to win.
You could say that if the Rays were going to pay someone money, that guys would want to come to Tampa to win. Yes.
Yes, but like, you could never.
Yeah, it's a new thing for the Bucks, but it makes a lot of sense because we have a little money left, not a ton, but we're not broke, and we have more that we can presumably free up. And yeah, I mean, it should be possible for the Bucks to add a few guys that in regular years they would not be able to obtain on 1-year deals.